I'm Shawnta Jackson, and as always, my purpose in life is to help people to help themselves and others. And you know what? I'm not sure if I started that introduction too soon or not, because we're live and recording, of course. Um, but I think I started too soon. But anyway, everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Shawnta Jackson. And today's guest is Deron Essex. And Deron is a stress reduction coach, and he works with professionals from around the world. We had a conversation yesterday, and I learned about his clientele and his reach. So he has clients in Canada and in the UK and also here in the USA. And let's get started, Deron. We want to talk about reducing trauma, reducing stress, gaining inner peace, and also there are, you call them energy vampires. Like, how do we get rid of those energy vampires and build this wall to where we can maintain our positive energy and not let those individuals in?
Powerful, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, where do you want me to start?
Let's talk about oh wow. Let's talk about the energy vampires. Let's just get straight into it.
Yeah. So, okay. First off, I think that people who go through a lot of things in their childhood that they haven't truly processed or healed, or they just keep suppressing it. I think those are the people that are the most susceptible to attracting energy vampires. That comes into people's lives, and I think that we have to be very careful with who we attract, because there's a lot of negative people, a lot of narcissists, a lot of people who just want to take your energy and just want you to just give uh, them everything. So I think a lot of empaths, and I use the term empaths as people who they have some understanding or some ability to feel and understand another person's struggle or existence or life. And a lot of empaths are drawn to energy vampires, if you will, because empaths, we're normally giving, because we're so receptive to everybody, and because we're so open, we just naturally give a lot of nurturers and comforters, and a lot of energy vampires attack those kinds of people because they're the easiest, and they say, "Oh, I'm just programmed to help people," or I just love helping people, so, or I just love giving to people even though they may not get back to me, you know.
So you just described me in some sense. So I even open up my shows, and just my purpose in life, I say, is to help people to help themselves and others. And everything that I choose to do in my professional and personal life, it's socially conscious, or just conscious in general. And and I do have, and it's a gift at the same time, because I make a living off of doing that, of helping people and being able to see their woes, deficiencies, needs, but also strengths, and to help them to build their strengths. But because I am a giver in the past, and not too far in the past, I have allowed people to drain and take my energy from me, to where I don't even have time for myself. But you mentioned that these energy vampires, you use the word attack. Now, is it always intentional that someone is a energy vampire, do you think?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's a very nuanced, because hurt people, and we can, or I would say, an energetic vampire, right, is somebody who consciously or unconsciously, right, they need other people's energy to feel some hole inside of themselves. So hurt people hurt other people. So is it always conscious? I would say no. Is it conscious sometimes, where people are intentionally, saying, "Oh yeah, I can intentionally get over on this woman because she XYZ, or he XYZ," then that's more of a, okay, they're consciously trying to manipulate somebody, versus people who are just hurt and are acting out of that hurt and living out of that hurt and experience reality out of that hurt, sometimes they like do it by accident. Sometimes like they can, because I've even saw that self like that in my own self, like during my healing journey, definitely like years ago, it was a instance where I felt myself just like had this insatiable need to feel and to like get other people's energy as much as possible because there's a part of me that wasn't whole. That
Mhm.
I just kept trying to like see how however many friends or however many hookups that I could use to kind of like feel this hole and feel this void on the inside of myself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. And is this something that you help your clients with? Are these some of the issues that you kind of work through with your clients?
Yeah, I do because most of my clients they consider themselves in some shape, form, or fashion as an empath or has empathic tendencies. Like they're more so like nurturers, they're givers. They're the people who they got on the like superwoman cape or superman cape and they're just flying around like saving everybody, helping everybody to the point to where they then don't have time to take the cape off and address the wounds up under. So I help them to say, hey, you're doing amazing stuff. That's beautiful. Let's take off that superwoman cape. Let's take off that like superman cape and let's address the wounds that you keep running away from. And so I help them to get to a place to where they can understand where their shyness comes from, where their like lack of confidence in themselves comes from, and
Mhm.
then help them to heal wherever that root source is, and then change into a new version of themselves that is capable of achieving their dreams. So, and a lot of times, people attract toxic relationships because a lot of people come from very hurt families and hurt households and households that have been traumatizing. And so you grow up in a society where this is not talked about. It's taboo to talk about this stuff and in various different communities, but overall, I mean, it's starting to get a more broader, conversation about it. But then you take these things that you can't talk to nobody about, and then you suppress them and repress them, and then you just keep making up things to avoid the important, thereby like compounding those effects over time towards now you just think this is just me or this is just how I am when it actually isn't you. Those patterns of giving yourself away isn't you. Like it's something that you learn in response to your past, because at that one point in time it may have served you, but at another time it can harm you. So normally I help people who are in that path of understanding their own ontology of themselves and their sense of self, and I help them to kind of cleanse and do like a nice spring cleaning of their whole internal estate, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And then we help them to recreate themselves into the version of themselves that they've always known that they wanted to be, they always wanted to be, but they just never gave themselves permission to be.
Okay. We're on the same path, and so we have different methods or modes of how we recommend that people achieve those goals. I don't know if you journal or not, but in my book, The Journal of a Woman with Lived Experiences, a 21-day guided journal, I actually, so everything that you're saying, and so I'm hearing emotional intelligence. I'm hearing self actualization, to where you actually take the time. You mentioned the cape, so we're superheroes to others, and we don't really have the time to take to ourselves. And so for me, I like to journal, and I actually recommend journaling as a way to kind of express yourself, or just like process through thoughts and emotions, and then even to look back on that and to be honest with yourself, right? To say, you know what, this is a pattern, or sometimes I even have conversations with myself, and when I'm reading, why does that bother me, why do I feel that way, or sometimes I process and I read that way. I write and read that way. But then another thing that I recommend for individuals is to identify someone that they can trust, and someone who almost kind of like an approachable person, a non-judgmental person that they can talk to. And so I would put you in that category as one of those individuals that people can talk to. And so in addition to the inner healing, you also help individuals to reduce. We mentioned this earlier, to reduce stress,
Right.
and then but the majority of the individuals that you work with, to my understanding, they are professionals, correct?
Yes.
And
Entrepreneurs.
so and so as an outcome, you mentioned I kind of watched some of your videos, and I read a little bit about you. But as an outcome, there's like an increased earning potential. Could you please talk to me a little bit about that, and like how does that happen?
Yeah. Great question. So I will phrase it like this: the most profitable thing you can do is work on your dark side. I'm sorry, is to face your dark side. The most profitable thing you can do is to face your dark side. What do I mean by that? Excuse me. So, for example, one of my clients, he was I'm sorry, he is an entrepreneur. Before working with me, he was already making seven figures. His relationship was like on the brink, from divorce to divorce. And in his business, even though he was making money, he was still struggling in a sense. And what he came to me for was like he said, Deron, I want to heal, man. Like I want to stop holding on to all the hurt from my past. So I helped him heal because I see time not as just, oh, this right here is the present. This is one set of time, but then we have past, present, and future, and they're all interconnected. They're not, oh, that happened to me 20 years ago, this happened to me 50 years ago, or no, like it is all interconnected. And so when I helped him work on his stress and anger, which he thought was the problem, that wasn't really the problem, that was only a symptom of the problem. The real problem is that he never addressed how he really felt about his mom treating him the way she treated him his whole life. He never got a chance to really like process that and come to terms with that. So I helped him heal from that deep wound that helped make his beliefs, help like made his like thoughts about life, about women, about relationships, and why he always would find himself in arguments with women and always like find himself in divorce. And I was like, dude, it's not the present moment, dude. We got to go back to where this like started from,
Mm-hmm.
and helped him heal from that. And within 6 weeks, he felt so much more at peace, felt so much more himself. He said he went from like a shell of a man to a divine version of himself. Then once we replaced that inner pain with inner peace, then I helped him to recreate his sense of self, who he saw himself was. Because even though he was this fully adult man, having a business, got a wife, got kids, blah blah blah, on the inside he was still that angry little boy who was vying for attention. And so I helped him change his internal image, which is the strongest version of you. Like the strongest um, power inside of us is our own image of ourselves. So I helped him really change that towards like stepping into his divine masculine energy of creation. And he started to then, because he increased his confidence, because he was able to see himself in a new light, he started taking new behaviors, started asking for new things. Therefore, when he got into his sales calls, he felt so much more confident. His energy was so much more electric because we got rid of all of that emotional debris that was from the past, that people were just so much more inclined to work with him because his energy was so now warm and inviting. Then he started to charge more for his prices, and people started to pay up front because they just saw his energy and saw his confidence like really just grow. So that's how he started making more money, because he started to have more confidence. Just the other day, Jonathan, one of my clients who started working with me just this week, like literally just this week, young professional, like out of Tulane University, and she does art on the side. And I told her, I said, look, you have an ability, like I can help you like heal yourself and work on yourself, and I'll give you a free business session because I also help people with their businesses as well. And in one session, I helped her to really break through this like non-confident version of herself that her parents pushed her into, and create her own blueprint. And like she just messaged me today, like she's close to making $300 in the past 2 days, and with her art, and she gets paid 300 a week, and like at her 9 to 5. So I told her, I said, when you open your mind and you break out of the cycles of thought that society has put us in, whether it's 9 to 5, whether it's these other different things, you now have access to an unlimited potential of new thoughts and new ideas, which then creates new things in your life. So that is exactly how. And also, as an entrepreneur or as professionals that are serial entrepreneur and they're doing different stuff, what they got to understand is that if you are the main computer, and if your computer got viruses that you don't even know are there because you cannot read the label if you're inside the bottle, then you are just going to keep hitting these walls, these invisible walls, and you're going to get frustrated as heck, right? And you're gonna get frustrated, being like, "Yo, what's going on? Like, there's something like pulling me back. It's like this invisible wall." Is because that invisible wall is the other part of yourself that you're not ready to look at. That's where it is. When you stop running from yourself, and it is scary. And society teaches us so much to no, 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 distract yourself. No, 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 scroll. No, 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 please. Of anything else that you do, do not look inside, because the knowledge that is on the inside of you has the power to truly create a whole new society. Don't look inside. Don't look inside. Just keep looking on the outside. Keep living in the physical world. But when I get people to help them to get confident enough, give themselves permission enough and confidence enough to stand up to the other side of themselves they've been running away from, that's when they fully recognize their power.
Yes.
They fully recognize their power.
Yes. And I, for the most part, I am a confident person, and I do know that I have power, and I do know that I'm able to do anything that I put my mind to. I know this, but not until recently. Once because I'm so busy sometimes that I really don't, I'm in the moment, I'm in the grind, I'm working, I have this to do, that sometimes I don't, and I do meditate, I do positive affirmations, and I listen to, I watch what I read, but sometimes, even though I'm meditating, it's more so for coping, so that I can keep going, but I'm not necessarily reflecting. And so when I reflected, and what I do a lot is I have a board, and I'll write down just kind of everything that I have going on, because I had actually I had a lot of anxiety this week. Just everything is just happening in abundance, and so what's happening is I have to figure out how to channel it, and so I'm reflecting, and I know my power inside, but I really, really now know my power inside, and I sat back and I reflected, and I had to, because I wrote everything that I have going on in my life, and what I'm doing, and what I've accomplished, and what's next, and everything, and I'm just like, wow, like I'm Shawnta Jackson. Like, Shawnta Jackson is pretty amazing, right? But it's inside of us, and I always knew it was there, and I know it's there, but it's just me, like, really kind of owning it and being proud of it, and not being apologetic, and not dumbing myself down, and being okay with the fact that I'm unique. I provide value, and but at the same time, that balance, finding that work-life balance, has been a challenge for me, but it's better. It's much, much better. And so you also mentioned that you help individuals with a business. Tell me a little bit more about that practice.
Yeah, got you. What I would say before that about the work-life balance is that is a constant um, management. But you have to constantly manage that. But yes, for like people in our business, I also help people to really overcome their mindset when it comes into business in terms of sales and reaching out to people and overcoming rejection, because that triggers other stuff from the past that they may not have fully healed through. So I really help them when it comes to setting up their business, start selling, and really have powerful confidence in heart-to-heart conversations, which is like selling. And I help them to truly think of themselves in a completely different way. Because business is something that I think is a very powerful creative tool. And one of my clients, AJ, like I helped her to start basically making around $2,000 a month, which now she don't have to go back to her old job anymore, because like I gave her the like new thinking and the new way in which she can create income um, by her like at home. So yeah, I also help people with that because growing up, I had to learn business myself in order to do what I'm doing now and have the reach that I have now. So I also offer that as well.
Okay. So you're a kid from Chicago and you live in somewhere town, Ohio.
Yes.
Where in Ohio?
I live in Oberlin, Ohio, and I am, yes, a man from Chicago. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Yes, you are a man from Chicago, and the reason I said mentioned so I'm going to age right now. That's the segue,
Okay.
and so you're under 30, and
Yep.
why should anyone like? What makes you qualified? Why should anyone listen to you?
Mm, great question. So no one should listen to me. No one should listen to anyone. So I personally feel that in the life coaching and coaching industry, what do we normally see? It's normally white men or women who are normally coaches, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, but I do not look like that, and I'm not from that like line of or like field of thinking. And for example, one of my clients who went to the years like 13 years of therapy came to me, like the same guy I was talking about earlier. He said, "Deron, I learned more with you in 90 minutes than 13 years of therapy." 13 years, that's a long time, and that's a pretty dang expensive bill for like therapy for years. For 10 years, that's like probably thousands, probably tens of thousands. And so I say that to say that yes, my age is 24, but when people have a conversation with me, they see that my awareness spans farther than age, and that is what people are drawn to, and just my energy. And so I think I have a lot to learn from everybody, and I believe that I have a lot to teach people as well that are open to that. Because I believe that if you are using age as a measuring stick, whether to learn from somebody or not, you like that's foolish. Because, for example, there are 14 years. I was just on Instagram today. There's a 14-year-old who just made an 80 grand real estate deal. You mean to tell me because he's a 14-year-old, black kid that you ain't gonna listen to him? No, come on now. Like I listen to him, and I love watching people who are like 11, 10, 15 who are just killing it right now in entrepreneurship, and I'm learning from them, like straight up. And I'm older than them, and I do not care because I mean, if someone has something that I need, I don't care what they look like. Like I don't care how old they are. And all of my clients, they tell me the same thing. So I ask them, I say, yo, look, you have other coaches, you have other therapists. Why come work with me? And they said, Deron, I don't care about your age. I actually think it's interesting because you have a different outlook and a different way of like viewing this life coaching and coaching in life in and of itself. Because I've came from very like hard circumstances. So they said that my insight, like one woman that I connect with off LinkedIn, she's a professor at San Jose University. She said, Deron, the reason why I wanted to work with you is because you actually lived through trauma. Like you've lived through seeing people like die in front of you. Like you've lived through all the other stuff that I told her about. And she said the fact that you lived through that and you've experienced yourself healing and you have like real life taking years to like devoting yourself down this journey. Like I started my spiritual journey at age of 10. So I've basically been doing this half my life. So when people say, "Oh wow, he's so young," I'm like, "Yes, I'm young, but I also been doing it half of my life." Which gives me a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge, a lot of trial and error, a lot of just stuff that I've seen that no child should see, but that has helped me to grow. I think me growing up in the South Side of Chicago and seeing the crazy horrors that I saw helped me to understand the context in which I grew up and life in of itself. And then also my spiritual journeys into astral projection, which is where like you consciously remove your like spirit from your body and travel into other different dimensions. Like you can like that's like woo woo or whatever, but it's real and I've done it. And I used to do it back when I was 14 and 18. And by doing that, by literally taking the same route consciously that my spirit would normally take through death, that is how I understand life so much. Like, and I'm not saying here, like sitting here saying, "Oh, I know everything. I'm the Grand Wizard of all." No, no, no. I know like a little bit of a little bit of a little bit, and I know there's a lot more that I don't know. That I'm a precious learner, but for me, all the times of me literally going out of my body and witnessing and seeing and understanding different things about life and death from different parts of the self, from inside my body, from outside of my body, from like hovering above my body. Like it gave me so much clarity about life and about all these things that now I can use, and I can take all that information I use, and that's what I help my like clients with, like some of that information that I've gotten from the other side of life, you know.
You mentioned therapy a few times in our conversation. What's the difference, if for those of our listeners who don't know, what's the difference between you as a stress reduction coach and a therapist?
Great question. So, stress reduction coach, that's like the name so people can understand. Like, okay, yeah, I got stress. Okay, this makes sense. But basically, more in depth, the difference is that I'm a emotional and spiritual confidant with a kind of like with a shamanic like progression towards positive progression in life. So, what that means is that I give people my truth, right? So like I know in like therapy, you know, like you don't make it personal, right? Like you remove your like you don't put your own stories into it. For me personally, and what I've seen with the results my clients have gotten, showing my own life and showing my own mess ups and my own trials and errors and my own shortcomings and giving that as an example through which I'm teaching a specific way of viewing reality is so helpful to my clients. Another thing is that I feel, you know, and this is not me saying like there's any knock on therapy, because I know some therapists who are really good, some therapists who, you know, really aren't as effective. But for me, what I've recognized is that by me not only coming from a very like psychological point of view, but also coming from a very emotional point of view, as well as like a point of view of like what it means in this current reality that we're living in, because I'm so young and so close to the heartbeat of the culture as well. It gives me a brand new and different perspective where I can help people and touch people like in different ways in terms of helping them to like see different things inside themselves because of my vast experiences and my vast different upbringings and like teachings that I've had so far. Um, yeah.
And you mentioned also, well, I read and I know this about you, that you also work with youth and you
Mhm.
have a program.
Okay.
What are some of the things that you work with youth? You have your own traumatic experience, and do you mind me asking?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your background
Yeah.
and your experiences that you've had and how you relate to the youth that you work with and the lessons that you're teaching them, or the things that you're helping them to grow and build upon.
Great question. So I grew up in Chicago and I saw a lot of death. There was one point in time when I was about 10 years old. My best friend's older brother, he got shot a block down from me, and then he was able to somehow got shot twice in the chest, but was able to drive down to our block, and he got out of the car right in front of my house, and the blood was just on the sidewalk and stuff like that, and he just collapsed right in his grandma's and my dad's arms, and you know, for me seeing that, that gave me so much PTSD, extreme, and the crazy and the part about it was that no one talked about
Lean forward. Yeah, your audio. Yep.
it. Sorry, yeah, and no one talked about it, right? No one, there was no, okay, let's talk about this, let's process this, there was none of that. So growing up, I was so anxious over everything. Like my mom would tell me to go, like Deron, you know, go take the trash out. Get extreme anxious, anxiety, or Deron, go, you know, do X, Y, Z. Like just get extreme anxiety, or my mom or my dad talk to me, anxiety, or a professor or a teacher talking to me, anxiety. Like I just had so much, and I thought it was just me until I went to college and I started studying psychology, and I was like, wait a second, other people deal with, like, other people are going through what I'm going through. Wow, okay, I know I'm not alone here. So for me, what I help youth do is I help them to de-stress as well, because adults, they got so much going on that they don't even recognize that that in the current day and age that we live with so much technology, with all these different things that are popping off in society, that the current child is stressed as bleep. Okay, because, and I know because one of my clients has a child who, because school and everyone is like away from everybody, is more alienation, more like social isolation, which is like ramping up the stress, ramping up the mental health the mental health issues with kids. So I had before Corona a after school program where I would help kindergartners through third graders, and I teach them different methods of healing themselves, different methods of de-stressing themselves, different methods of like using their physical body to move their energy through something called capoeira Angola, which is an Afro-Brazilian martial art and dance. It's like a spiritual meditative movement. So I incorporate all of that and energy work into very fun play sessions for the kids, so that we play as if it's recess, but then we also do like healing work, and I interweave it in between the fun games that we play with the healing and stress work, so they don't even know that they're actually in class that way. Because when and it's the same thing I do with like adults, and like in a sense I bring that fun energy. Sometimes we may like dance a little bit like right before a session, like maybe for like 30 minutes, because when you're in a fun state of energy, when you're at a peak state of energy, you now have access to new information, and now your brain is more susceptible to learning new things that you couldn't learn before in a lower energy state.
Okay. Um, I connect with a lot of people, and I'm very impressed by you. And I would love to continue to work with you in some capacity. How we first connected, um, I don't know if you remember. You don't remember because you probably reach out to a lot of people, but you connected with me on LinkedIn. It was LinkedIn.
Right.
And then from LinkedIn, we connected on Facebook. And then recently, just like maybe in the past couple of days, Instagram. But mostly our communication and engagement is on Facebook. But it started through LinkedIn. And the reason I mention that is because everyone that I bring on my show, it's something about them that I see in them, that I feel like they have a gift, and that they can, and they have a gift to share, and that they can help others. And so just as a professional, as far as networking, you're definitely someone that I would like to work with in the future. I see you, I see you on stage, retreats, different large speaking engagements. I can see you captivating an audience and getting their attention. And so as you're speaking my business mind, I'm like, you know what, we can do something together. We're going to do something together. We'll think of something. And then just with your after school program, I know you help businesses, but I help people too, and organizations and groups. And so I think the idea and what you do for the after school program, that in itself, it's a model. It's a model that can be replicated, and you can train others to do that. And that's what I would encourage you to do, and to grow that. That's a niche in itself. So, do you have any questions for me or anything?
Yeah. What is your like? Okay, deep question here. Do you like when you're? How old are you now? Right now?
39. I'm 39.
39. So, like, let's say when you're like 90 years old, right? And you're like looking back, you're healthy, like you're still doing your hiking, still going trailing. What is one thing that you'll look back over your life and be like, you know what? I'm so happy I did that. What is that one thing?
That I took a chance on myself, that I left. It's a lot. It's not just that one thing, but basically that I took a chance on myself. And me taking a chance on myself means I left my hometown, and I continued to grow. I had bumps on the roads. I experienced trauma, but I'm resilient. But the fact that I had visions and I had ideas, and I pursued them, and I modeled them for my son. When I'm 90 years old, and by the time I'm 90, I have 9 more years left on the earth. I've decided that I want to live to be at least 99. I'm undecided about 100, but at least 99. And so I see myself, I can envision myself. I can envision myself as a very youthful, very healthy, standing up straight. And I'm just proud of myself. I'm proud of my legacy that I left behind. And, hopefully I'll have grandchildren, hopefully. But the fact that I have this legacy and this lineage that I'm leaving behind, but the fact that I took a chance on myself, and that I achieved, and I helped others, that I just kept my mind going, and I kept learning about myself, and my spiritual growth, and that's something that I'm more so working on in 2020. That was something that I consciously wanted to work on, was my spiritual connection with God and with the universe, and my spiritual growth. So I think by the time I'm 90, I think I'll have it down pack, and I'll be kind of confident. And then who knows? Maybe people will, when they think of Maya Angelou, maybe, who knows? Maybe one day I can fit in a category like that.
Mm. Ooh.
Yeah. 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 I was listening to one of her interviews last week, and she was saying how she grew up in a 14-bedroom house. Like, either her house was 14-bedroom, or she grew up. No, I think she said she grew up in about 14-bedroom house. But it wasn't about the number of the bedrooms. But she was like, why not? Why shouldn't I have this? This is how I grew up. Like, why do I have to? I'm deserving. Why, so I feel that same way about myself, and I'm learning to feel that way about myself too. And I project that that's how I would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we have a comment. Someone's watching on YouTube, actually, mentoring mentors. Mayo, I almost called you Alfonso. So Mayo, no, my colleague who's watching, he says she's amazing, bro. And I believe that was about 4 minutes ago he made that comment. So I'm thinking he was probably talking about Maya Angelou. And he actually has a program in Baltimore, and where he mentors youth. He started off with boys, but now it's boys and girls. And he's managed to grow his nonprofit organization. It's a Black-led organization, and he's managed to maintain his integrity and cultural identity, and but still be successful with receiving funding and engaging with funders, and not kind of like I think people say it happens a lot with like artists. You go a little, in order to go mainstream, you have to let go a little bit of your values and who you are. But he's managed to kind of maintain that, and to be very intentional about serving Black youth in Baltimore. So that's another colleague of mine that hopefully one day I can start connecting people and connecting you all. But I appreciate this conversation. I learned a lot. How can we get in contact with you? I know you have a private Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And I do know that you also often sometimes host workshops. And are these free workshops?
Yeah, these are free workshops in my group. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how do we get in contact with you?
Good question. You can either get in contact with me through Facebook, through just Deron, Deron, Alchemy, Alchemy, Essex, Essex, or my Instagram, which is that same name, but it's Deron _Alchemy _Essex, or my LinkedIn, Deron Essex, and they just message me there, and then we just message, and then I'll see if I can, like vibe with you, and if I cannot vibe with you, I'll just let you know that,
Yeah, I like that if I can vibe with you. It's not just about you liking me or vice versa, but if I can vibe with you. And Mayo says, no, you. He was talking about me. So I'm amazing. He's telling you that I'm amazing, bro.
And bro, I agree.
but thank you for this. I want to continue on and have a conversation with you, but we'll end for now.
Okay.
And this has been a very beneficial conversation, and we don't know who is going to listen. We don't know who's listening now, and this conversation could touch someone 12 months now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now. We never know. And so I thank you for that. And I wish you all the best, and I will definitely stay in contact.
Yes, thank you. Can I say one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
To whoever and to whatever beautiful soul is watching or listening or tuning in, wherever you are from around the world, I want to say thank you for giving me your time to share my story and share some of my ideas. And also want you to remember, whether you reach out to me or not, or anything else, that you are here to free yourself and to always give yourself permission to free yourself or to live your truth. Thank you.
Thank you.